Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 930. I'm Kevin Kallsen.
I'm George Conger. Today is September 2nd, 2025.
All right, welcome. No, it's not your monitor. We'll explain in a minute. Welcome to another program of Unscripted. We're glad you could join us here. This is our happy place, and one of us had a little boo-boo. He'll talk about it in a minute. Before we get too far into the show, please like, subscribe, comment, share with a friend, and I think that covers everything. Exciting week in the comment section. We appreciate that very much. George, you got some explaining to do here. You look like a character from Disney. What happened?
Well, it was the start of Sunday school, and we have a tough Sunday school.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. No, I'm moving my daughter back from Seattle. Mm-hmm. She's had a very bad year. I think I've shared bits and pieces of it, but
we have, yeah.
She is unwell, and so at the end of this month, I'll be flying out, packing up her apartment, renting a U-Haul, and driving back to Florida, 3,000 miles. To prepare for that, we have a spare room, a bedroom, which I've been using as an office study. And over the weekend, I rented a storage unit and borrowed a friend's trailer and was moving furniture and everything out to turn it back into a bedroom. And while I was moving, I tripped, and while carrying furniture, and I landed face down on the cement driveway, whacked my forehead, broke my glasses, scratched my nose. And I look like you
look like the driveway one.
Well, because I'm on blood thinners, I bled profusely.
Yeah.
And so it was a spectacular sight. But, I'm not in any pain whatsoever. The only thing is that my nose is I have it right here where the glasses went in to the skin, and where they split, the glasses split. That hurt. That's sensitive. But otherwise, I'm not really in any major pain or discomfort. I just look scary.
So this is a great time to mention to people, we have a podcast. If my face and George's faces offend too much, just listen to us. Nothing wrong with that. We want to be offended in one bit. Oh, George, shall we move on here to the news? We reported last week that Justin Welby had requested permission and was denied by Rochester and Southwark Diocese. We learn now that that's not the full story, because we have an investigative reporter who works for us, Julian Mann, and he did some digging, George.
Yeah, there was an article in Private Eye that intimated, it didn't say it's outright, but you could make the assumption that Welby had refused permission to officiate, a PTO, from the Diocese of Southwark or Rochester, which is the area of southern London where Welby lives now in retirement. Julian checked into this, and both Rochester and Southwark have said Justin's never asked. Okay. So Justin Welby has not been refused; he's just never asked. So essentially, he has become a layperson in the eyes of, not in the eyes of the Church of England, his orders and all that, but functionally, he is a layperson. He is not exercising ordained ministry through a license.
Well, I don't think it's odd, because he did step down and resign as Archbishop, and it was a difficult time for the church, and certainly a difficult time for himself, because something that led up to that was the failure of the Church of England to provide safeguarding to victims.
And at the end of the day, the buck stopped with Justin Welby. We can point out all sorts of personal failures, this and that, but he was the leader of an institution, and the institution's policies and procedures and traditions almost gave him no way out. Now, there are, of course, incredible people that come along once in a lifetime that can overcome the inertia or the trajectory of an institution. Justin Welby wasn't one of those fellas. No. Neither am I. I mean, I can't overcome the inertia, the trajectory of the Episcopal Church. So it's well, I think we need to have, pity is not the right word, but we need to understand that there's sometimes can't fix the situation you find yourself in.
Well, I do have respect for him not requesting PTO. You know, if he's just going to say, okay, this is it, I'm done. I respect that. You know, so. All right, let's move on to the next story in our list here. We have an update. Let's see if I'm right here. The Diocese of Mid-Atlantic has issued a statement regarding Incarnation Anglican Church in Williamsburg and tensions with Bishop Chris Warner. Let's talk Warner. Sorry about that. Jeez, you know, I mispronounce things all the time. So I am. George, let's give a quick update. What's the statement say?
Well, the Standing Committee released a letter essentially backing Chris Warner. Mm-hmm. The background is that Incarnation's vestry and its former clergy were moving away from the acceptance of women clergy. And this caused the bishop to step in and led to an internal fight and a split. And now we're at this impasse where, in essence, the vestry's gone, a new vestry's in. Half the people have left, most of them going to a new church plant in Yorktown, Virginia, in another jurisdiction. And there's a recent meeting between Warner and the various parties, and we're in a bit of a bind. We're not there on the spot. We have the Standing Committee's letter, Bishop Warner's complete silence. They do not respond to any press stuff. Mm-hmm. And then we have people from the other side who have the notes and minutes of the meetings.
Well, I think we need to emphasize this. This isn't the reporting of one source, although there is one very public source on Twitter X, the whistleblower. But we have multiple sources, and I'm surprised by. I would not say we have more than 10 sources, but we certainly have enough sources that I'm comfortable in the reporting of how we've covered this. And all those sources that have come and spoken on this have been of one accord. They've given us the same story. They all have the same notes, and they were all present at these meetings. Nobody from that church has refuted our reporting on what happened at the vestry meetings and Dr. Hurt's house. So I want to be clear on that.
So at this stage, we have the Standing Committee, which seems to be talking about a completely different issue. They have a different fact narrative than the people at the parish. And one of the issues that is blown up is that, according to the minutes that we saw, Bishop Warner's canon to the ordinary, so the bishop of the canon of the ordinary said that the priest you call, that priest must be willing to receive communion from a woman priest. Mm-hmm. So, what does this mean? This means that the ACNA settlement on dual integrities, that traditional normative position that the ordained ministry is for men, but we will make exceptions. Bishop Warner has flipped that on its head, saying that the normative position in the Diocese of Mid-Atlantic is men and women equally ordained in the ministry, and that priests in this diocese must be willing to accept the orders of their female colleagues. Mm-hmm. Now, Bishop Warner's not responded to this, and this was not addressed in the Standing Committee in any great detail. And now at this point, we sort of speculate, if this is true, this is every fear that a traditionalist who opposes women's orders has, is that we see the Episcopal model. First, tolerating a position, and then after it becomes tolerated, it becomes a mandatory position. This is how we move forward on homosexuality in the Episcopal Church. Well, it's wrong, but we won't make any fuss about it. Until now, we had a Commission on Ministry meeting in Central Florida. I had two people who went down from my parish to explore the ordination to the priesthood. One's a former Baptist. The other grew up in Santeria. So what is it? Satanist from Miami, yep. Cuban, Afro-Cuban religion.
Yep.
And so normal Episcopalian, both have sort of my worldview. I mean, if they attend my parish, they probably share some things I have in common. And they asked the bishop, "Do you allow non-gay people in the ordination process?" And Bishop Holcomb said, "The national canons require us that we allow them to do this. But oddly enough, we've not had anybody pass through the system."
What? That's weird. I mean, statistically saying, oh, okay, I get it. I hear you.
So maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, but they're learning how to lie as an Episcopalian, saying, we follow this, certainly the letter of the law, but not the spirit.
Well,
so in other words, Holcomb is protecting himself, because if he said, no, we don't allow anybody through, he'd be kicked out in a minute. But if he allows the process to weed people out, he's not done anything wrong.
Well, back to the Diocese of the Mid-Atlantic then, the Standing Committee put out the right response, saying that we do not push the one way forward. We have dual integrals here in the Diocese of the Mid-Atlantic. And so they said correctly, we really just haven't heard from the bishop as to what really occurred or his side of the story. And I think the Standing Committee's response was a good and proper response. But no. Let us be clear and tell you the position of the diocese, which they did. I really want to kind of hear the side of the story from the bishop. Did you or somebody who works for you instruct this church to only hire a priest who would accept from a woman priest? So,
and we've been getting a lot of stuff, and some of it it's hard for me to credit. In other words, one of the people said that this was a potential rector recommended to us by the diocese, and it showed a picture. It's a young priest from the Diocese of Pittsburgh, Anglican Pittsburgh, who is taking a knee during a Black Lives Matter rally
protest,
festival.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. Well, okay.
In other words, it's just. I wrote back to the person and said, "You've got to be kidding me, right? Yeah. You've got to be kidding me. This is farcical." But no, this was one of the recommendations.
Having been a part of, as a senior warden for many, many years, church searches and doing parish profiles and seeking candidates, there are 3 different tiers of candidates out there. There are people who went to seminary and they're smart, they know what they're doing, but they just don't have the common sense to express their faith. There are people who went to seminary, passed the classes, you don't know how, who are just there to be a social warrior. They get the concepts of the leaves of the tree, not the root of the tree. And then there's a higher class of candidate who comes out from, and we got several really good seminaries in this country, who has that gift in their heart, has the ability to articulate that gift, but has it one step further, the charism, where that gift doesn't just go to your ear, but you're receiving that the listener receives it into their soul. And those are the 3 tiers. So I've seen it. And when I saw that picture you sent me, I'm like, yeah, they're there. They're out there. They're out there. So,
but maybe the ACNA has to do this. Well, we're going to send you all sorts of names, knowing full well that hell will freeze over before you pick this guy.
Yeah.
George, why don't you stand for election as Bishop of Los Angeles in the Episcopal Church? Well, technically I could, but hell will freeze over before I go anywhere in that diocese.
Oh boy, now we're being silly. All right, let's move on here a little bit. Next story, Archbishop Steve Wood has announced the ACNA is pursuing a $10 million grant from the Lilly Foundation. With a decision due in December, the funds would create an Anglican leadership formation pipeline, strengthening partnerships and establishing a consistent ordination standard across the denomination. I hope you can explain what that means, George.
I don't know what it means. This was Archbishop Wood put out a letter essentially a year after his first provincial council, outlining hopes for the future, the past. Little hint to the ACNA press office: put out your
PDFs.
paperwork on a PDF.
Please.
Don't send it out on an email that you can't copy and paste portions of, because if I've got to retype it, I'm sorry, I'm going to do the Indian corruption story first. Okay. My danger, Will Robinson, danger alarms are going off. Lilly Foundation, from the family that started Eli Lilly Company, they're Episcopalians going way back, and they support a lot of Protestant denominations, not just the Episcopal Church, many Protestant groups, and
Southern Baptist, Luther. I can name 6 off the top of my head.
They put money into religious work, and the ACNA wants to get into this piggy bank and get $10 million for clergy formation. All well and good. The problem is there's strings that are attached to whenever you take somebody's money. And if standardization across dioceses, if we look at just what happened in our previous story in Incarnation Williamsburg, what does that mean? That all seminarians will have the same views on women's orders, will have the same view on the real presence. What is this? We have the dual integrities. We have the 3 streams: Catholic, Charismatic, Evangelical. What does standardization mean? Does it mean that an ordinand in Fort Worth will be identical to an ordinand in the Diocese of Mid-Atlantic in their worldviews, theologies? There are a lot of questions and a lot of red flags, because it's I don't want to say dodgy source of money. It's not. It's a wonderful foundation. But it is what it is. It's part of the liberal, progressive elite in the United States, and the ACNA wants their money.
Other denominations have documented what it's like to receive monies from places like the Lilly Foundation. I don't want to get sued. Like the Lilly Foundation, who found out that there were strings attached, who were given an initial amount of money in the millions and said, use this for whatever you want. Start a seminary, build churches, clean the stained windows, tune the organs. This money is yours. Next year, we want to welcome you back to apply for a new grant. You apply for that grant. They're like, all right, we got this money, but here's a better deal. Instead of the $5 million, we got $10 million for you that you can use as you want, but we need to talk to you about some of your priests being a little bit political on the pulpit. What can you do to stop that? There's documentation of this type of stuff. And it is my fear that that could happen with the Lilly Foundation, in my humble opinion, based on what I've seen other foundations do. And I want to back up and say, should you take money from Lilly Foundation? Yes, but you can't make it something you rely on year to year. If they give you a one-time donation with no strings attached, good. Don't make that part of your budgeting. Don't make that part of your annual budgeting and outreach. Make that a one-time reception, knowing that you will never get it again unless you are not willing to have strings attached.
My experience in the ministry is that I've never been part of a church that's gotten a dime from anybody else. In the years I've been here, the diocese didn't buy the land, the local people did. The diocese didn't build the church, the local people did. Not a penny has come in to support any program, any structure. We even bought our own prayer books the first time around. And that self-reliance, I think, is important in building the character of a congregation. Part of the problem of the Episcopal Church as a whole is that there's too much money, so that there is no sense that you have to earn the trust of people. Because, otherwise, if you just have millions coming in from real estate investments, you can basically set up a nice little sweet sinecure for yourself. But if you are a church that's out in the world, engaging with the world, seeking to bring Jesus Christ to the world, that should be funded by the people who are doing that work, not by strangers or far-off people. So I am hesitant to take any money of that sort. Now, if you sent me $10 million, yeah, I know. I'm not going to return the check. I'm not going to return the check. I'm a hypocrite. Okay, I'm not going to return the check. In fact, we'll have the rector's white wall tire fund, where I'll get white wall tires for my car. But I just think it's a mistake to separate the money in the mission so starkly. I think it should be self-funding.
Yeah. I don't disagree. But once again, if somebody's sending a $100 check to Anglican TV, we'll use it for the ministry of spreading the news around the world about the Anglican Communion, with which we do. Let's move on here. Pulling up another sad story. We mentioned before that Justin Welby's not been seeking PTO, and people may have forgotten why he had to resign in the first place, and that was safeguarding issues within the church. And we have another story about this, and it's a story that's just not going away. There's been a major breach that has rocked the Church of England as the Kennedy laws accidentally sent a mass email listing all recipients of the abuse compensation list, outing the victims of clergy abuse and their identities. I can't tell you how frustrating that is.
The Church of England's General Synod had basically decided to outsource the management of the redress scheme, meaning compensating and caring for those abused by church clergy and church workers. And there are 196 people on this list so far. And it's being run by a big city law firm called Kennedy's, with an S, law, in London. Well, they sent out an email to all the people on this compensation list, but instead of
blind copy,
it lists every single person. So every single person who is on the abuse register, who's been abused and is reported to the Church of England, that information is now publicly available. It's out there. If you search hard enough, you can find it. Mm-hmm. This caused anger, heartache. Some of the more public people went on the TV and it denounced the Church of England's incompetence. Now, the law firm, the Church of England moved quickly and said, hey, we didn't do it. The lawyers did. The lawyers said, yes, we did it. We'll investigate how it happened. Now, oddly enough, this happened with the Spanish Episcopal Church, Roman Catholic.
Catholic, yeah.
They've had a clergy abuse scandal where they have about 50 people, and their lawyers released the names of the 50 people same way. But in Spain, the lawyers in the church are blaming each other, whereas in England, the lawyers are taking the blame for the screw-up. Now, this is accident. Nobody did this deliberately. Nobody seeks to hurt anybody. But as you say, Kevin, one drop after another, this story is not going away. And it's just causing the Church of England to continue. If you're a casual churchgoer, all you hear is just another cock-up from the people in charge at the Church of England about the abuse and all this stuff. It must be very discouraging and dispiriting if you have a wonderful life in the parish, if you have a wonderful faith life, to see an institution just so inept, so mismanaged the legacy of trust that had been given over generations, over centuries.
Yeah. And it's as simple as a mistake as the reply all. Everybody who's ever watched Anglican Unscripted has accidentally hit the reply all when they meant to do just reply. But it causes damage. All right, let's pull up the next story here. Okay, this is a story that you didn't get to hear about. We knew about it last week. The Church of Nigeria has launched a formal investigation into corruption allegations against a senior bishop following a story we held last week due to unverified claims. The diocese counters that a former register, not the bishop, is the bad guy, George.
Yeah, last week we were all set to report a story that would be appeared in the Nigerian press where a group of lay people had accused one of the provincial archbishops. In Nigeria, there are 5 provinces and a primate, so there are 5 archbishops plus a 6th archbishop. This archbishop was accused of financial misconduct, of selling church properties and pocketing the money for his own purposes. And this was the accusation. We decided, essentially, on air, to skip that. So if you
single
watch closely,
source, that's what, yeah.
Because, it was in several newspapers, but essentially it was the same people. And we just weren't happy with it. Well, since that time, the Church of Nigeria has released a formal statement saying, yes, we are investigating this and taking this seriously. And we will look into accusations of financial misconduct within the diocese. The diocese has put its own statement out saying, we have looked into this, and it turns out the registrar, one of the legal officers of the diocese, a former registrar, is the one who is the crook, who is forging signatures of other trustees to be able to convert property into cash, not the bishop. Who's telling the truth? No idea. But what we do know is that the Church of Nigeria has acted quickly, transparently, no hiding anything, and doing everything in plain sight.
So far. That's what we want to see, though. We're glad to see it. All right, let's move on to our next story. An interesting Episcopal story. It's all we ever have here. The Diocese of Georgia in the Episcopal Church has deposed Father Hunt after a 13-month trial for promoting psilocybin mushrooms as a religious experience. While this drug is legal for medical use in Oregon and soon Colorado, it's not legal nationwide, George. Not yet.
The man's name was Hunt Priest, so that's going to be a mouthful because Father Hunt Priest, So.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yep. After a 13-month investigation, Hunt Priest was deposed by the Diocese of Georgia for advocating psilocybin usage as a religious experience. That psilocybin is a mushroom. He had some mushroom trips that he felt got him closer to God, and he advocated using this as a spiritual vehicle for the divine. Now, there's some twists and kickers in here. In recent years, psychiatrists have been experimenting with psilocybin to deal with extreme treatment-resistant depression. Mm-hmm. And right now it's legal in Oregon under very strict medical supervision. It's soon be legal in Colorado. And why do I know this? Because I was investigating its potential help for my daughter, who I'm bringing home because she has severe depression. And it's not legal in Washington State. It's not legal in Florida. So we're going to look at something else. But that's very medically regulated. Father Priest was basically doing sort of a throwback to the good old days, Timothy Leary acid trip stuff of experiencing God through the shock your system gets by taking these mushrooms. And that microdosing can be a spiritual experience, that hallucinogens can get you closer to God. Now, people have been making this claim for a long, long time, not just...
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The Native Americans here used to peyote. I forget what it's called.
Peyote?
Yeah, peyote. I mean, that's, for some reason we find distorting our minds with drugs is a way to reveal God to us. And that's never going to stop. And I'm glad here's the big thing. And it may make the title. I haven't decided what the title is going to be for this episode. But the Episcopal Church in this diocese did the right thing, George.
Psilocybin use, mushroom use is illegal in Georgia.
Yeah.
So having a priest promote its usage is problematic. Mm-hmm. And outside of regulated psychiatric experiments at university settings or major hospital settings, one of the things, in looking deeply into this, if you have mania, for instance, if you're bipolar and you have depression, some of the issues some of the studies show that this can help you come out of your depression. However, if you have mania, it can make your mania worse. And so if you're, going cuckoo, it'll make that much, much worse, just speeding up everything. So it's far from ethical to be recommending this as a religious experience when the science is far from conclusive as to its benefits. And you're just basically trying to dress up the old hippy-dippy stuff, the acid trip stuff, in modern language. I think the Diocese of Georgia did the right thing here.
Yeah. Congratulations. We should have, we should have like a plaque we send out to a diocese when they do something right. ACNA or Tech or anywhere, something that we just wrap up. Congratulations, you did it right. So. Oh, well, let's hit on, this is amazingly going to be our last story, George. We're only half an hour in. People can take the rest of the day off. And it's not even an Anglican story. Bishop Emeritus Raul Vera Lopez of Saltillo, ignited fury amongst traditionalist Catholics by celebrating Mass on August 26 at the Shrine of Lady of Guadalupe with Reverend Emile Teresa Smith, a Canadian Anglican lesbian priest.
The retired Bishop of Saltillo at Mexico City's holiest or most popular shrine, Our Lady of Guadalupe, invited a Canadian woman priest who happens to be a partner lesbian. She was on her way to a COP30, a climate activist conference. He invited her to celebrate the Eucharist with her. So it's all on YouTube, where she's standing next to him, elevating the host, participating in the prayers of consecration, this and that. And I'll put on my glasses. Oh, the pain. He said, yeah, this is fine. And he said on Facebook, we are no longer in witch hunts and bonfire times. The word of our sister Amelia gives us light, life, and guidance as Laudito Si asks for all people of the planet. So you've got a Catholic bishop who's midly retired, basically going all down the cuckoo trail of saying that, God is present in the ministry of this woman, and therefore she can celebrate Holy Communion at a Catholic altar. He's jamming all sorts of stuff in there. I don't doubt that God is at work in the life of this woman.
Absolutely.
I may not agree with her theologically, politically, this, that, and the other, but I'm not going to say that have any personal thing to say about her. But that's different from the discipline, Eucharistic discipline, that the Catholic Church expects of its clergy, that you don't do this or that. There is a strain in, I would say, older Catholic clergy that I know, fellows in their 70s and 80s, who are really out there, who are almost indistinguishable from their Episcopal and Protestant colleagues on the Church of what's happening now. It's actually the younger generation of Catholic clergy that are much more traditionally minded.
Yeah, I would say rigorous. The last 3 or 4 years even, where you're finding graduates the last 3 or 4 years from seminaries seem to be more conservative. From 10 to 12 to 15 years ago, a lot more flaky.
So we've got the flakiness taking place in Mexico and in Germany and all this and that. And Kevin and I have a little joke. Our weekly story to poke fun at Gavin Nash.
We're not poking fun. The story did.
Colleague.
We love Gavin, and we miss him. All right.
There's one more thing just to add to it. Father James Martin, the Jesuit, who is the outspoken voice of the gay and lesbian movement in the Catholic Church, had a private audience with Pope Leo.
I saw that, yeah.
And afterwards, James Martin said, the Pope is completely on board with what I want to do, and he's going to follow in the footsteps of Francis and make the Catholic Church a welcoming place. Nothing from Leo's office, mind you, but just James Martin giving his spin. So if you're a traditionally minded Catholic, Now you know what it's like to feel like being an Episcopalian. You got, oh my God, you've got crazy retired bishops doing stuff with lesbian Canadians. You've got the spokesman for the gay movement dictating what Leo says about the place of non-celibate homosexuals in the life of the church. Oh, it's enough to make you pull your hair out for something.
Yeah, I did already. All done. I'm Kevin Kallsen.
And I'm George Conger, and you've been watching episode 930 of Anglican Unscripted.